We're sorry, your call cannot be completed. You.
Before, during, and after providing our services. We believe in building solid relationships with our clients and ensuring their satisfaction. Whether you need a complete outdoor makeover, indoor renovation, or routine maintenance, we have the expertise and resources to deliver outstanding results. Our team is committed to providing exceptional service and completing every project to the highest standards. To schedule an estimate or consultation, please call us at 248-843-6139 or visit our website at yearroundlandscaping.net. Year-round landscaping, one source, unlimited resources. For elite carpet, floor, and upholstery cleaning, call Supreme Steam Cleaning. For pressure washing on your house and driveway, call Supreme Steam Cleaning. Flooding in your house or building? Got you covered with our emergency water extraction services. Transform the rooms in your home with floor installation, repairs, and more. Give us a call today at 601-720-5138. That's 601-720-5138. Visit our website, www.supremesteamclean.com, and follow us on social media at Supreme Steam Cleaning. When you need an elite team, call Supreme. SOS Graphic Design provides agency-quality professional graphic design services from established companies to startups and individuals, creating a simple logo to complete rebranding and delivering visual communication with print media. Everything SOS Graphic Design does has a single unifying objective: to set your business apart. We are at your service. Call 313-342-2166. That's 313-342-2166, or online at www.sosgraphicdesigns.com. Are your clothes coming apart at the seams? Universal Seamstress and Tailoring has got you covered. At Universal Seamstress and Tailoring, we specialize in a wide variety of alterations and transformations to make and keep your clothes looking and fitting their best. From hem jobs to downsizing suits and dresses for a perfect fit to replacing zippers and buttons, Universal Seamstress and Tailoring is your one-stop shop for clothing maintenance. Also, do you have a logo for your clothes you'd like to wear? Universal Seamstress and Tailoring can put it there. That's right. At Universal Seamstress and Tailoring, we not only do alterations, but embroidery as well. Shirts, pants, coats, hats, even bags. If you can wear it, we can embroider it. So remember, whether it be alterations or embroidering you need, Universal Seamstress and Tailoring has got you covered. Universal Seamstress and Tailoring is located at 1404 Main Street, Fayette, Mississippi. Come and see us or give us a call at 601-786-0540. your local hair braiders and natural hair care specialists, and check out our many hair care services such as hair treatments, box braids, cornrows, tree braids, Havana twists, children's braids, natural twists, lock extensions, kinky twists, goddess locks, updos, full weaves, and more. Please feel free to visit us on the web at www.sistersbraid2.com or call 313-826-0498. Here at Sisters Braid 2, we offer exceptional care for exceptional hair. We look forward to seeing you. Sisters Braid 2 is a proud recipient of the Unity and Rebuilding Fund.
Oh man, the power's out again.
You are free to call engineering, your number one emergency generator. Power outages can be unpredictable, inconvenient, and disruptive to your life. With a backup generator, your life goes on uninterrupted with power when you need it. Not to mention the peace of mind of having your property safe to weather the storm.
Whoever would have thought in Houston, Texas, that we would have an ice storm? It did happen, and that Sunday night when it came in, I got up and looked at the front door. Everything was pitch black. It was horrible. Something out of a normal science that you had never seen before. Once the lights went out, my generator hopped on. It ran 55 miles. The only one had lights.
Get your backup generator installed with Quality Construction. We install both residential and commercial generators, so you're always covered. Schedule your consultation with us by calling 1-855-876-9370. That's 1-855-876-9370. Or visit us online at www.powerqec.com. That's www.powerqec.com. Financing is available with low monthly payments and 0% interest for 18 months.
That was the best investment that we could have ever made. That's my backup generator.
Generators with Quality Construction, built tough enough to weather the storm. Capital Area Planning offers a variety of services catered to your land development needs. We offer landscape design, residential design, land planning, mapping and consulting services, and more. We have over 20 years of design and land planning experience. CAPS LLC offers services to developers, builders, architects, surveyors, contractors, government agencies, and private landowners. Feel free to contact us to find out which services are available in your area. You may reach us at 601-326-2966. That's 601-326-2966. You can also visit us on the web at www.capsllconline.com. Let us put on our thinking caps to serve your land development needs.
Yeah, once every 30 seconds or so.
Tithes and offerings belong to the Lord. There are various ways that you can give to the new Nation of Islam. Before donating, the Son of Man would like you to first visit our website, thenewnationofislam.com, to view the progress page so you're clear on what you're supporting. Donations can be made on that same website on the Donate tab, or visit www.unityandrebuildingfund.com. To give by Cash App, make your payment to $New Nation of Islam or call 601-786-7056. To use GoFundMe, search Tithes and Offerings, the Son of Man. Donations can also be mailed to Muhammad's Temple at 5306 Red Lake Road, Norman, Mississippi 39096. For questions or more information, feel free to contact Accountant James Muhammad at 601-786-1636. Thank you for your charitable contributions in support of the New Nation of Islam. You can also listen via conference call at 601-909-9135. The access code is 968280. That's 601-909-9135. The access code is 968280. For additional streaming options or to report a technical issue, call area code 601-786-1888. That's 601-786-1888. And now, a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just. I greet all of you once again who are hungry and thirsty for the true understanding of the Word of God and for the
Brothers and sisters, are you tired of reading the Holy Scripture and not really understanding what you read? And if you're reasonably sure, have you ever tested that what you feel you know was...
That was my bad. I forgot to turn the listen. So once again, I greet all of you who are hungry and thirsty for the true understanding of the Word of God and for the truth in general. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's Salam Alaikum. Before we get back to the motion filed by the special counsel in the case of United States of America versus Donald Trump, the government's motion for immunity determinations, which was the motion for the federal court judge Chutkin to distinguish between what actions Donald Trump took as president or immune to him being prosecuted for, and what actions he took as a private citizen or as just a regular American citizen, that he's not immune if he committed criminal acts or acts that he can be charged for that were not official acts that is done by a president of the United States. As misinterpretation has been done to the Constitution, in the Second Amendment, people misinterpret the Constitution to say that since this is I want to show you that I'm only going by the definitions that they give us, that they gave us when they wasn't trying to overthrow the government. The definitions that they gave us as citizens that were actually common sense. This is a democratic republic. A republic is a government that the people send people who they choose to the governing body to represent the majority of the people who voted to send them up there. Now, Brother Michael, put your cell phone on mute so that it don't get no feedback. Now this means that I'm also putting mine on mute too. Now this means that when you when you talking to the representative of the people, they represent the people. And so they in the Second Amendment, it says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the people, the state. The right of the people to keep and to bear arms shall not be infringed. And so that's why you don't see the military being required to have a license to carry weapons, or being required to go through some type of screening by other than themselves to put weapons in the arms, in the hands of people who are part of the military. If you're in the military is the one that decides whether you have arms or not, but not not the laws that govern other people, because the right of the military to keep and to bear arms cannot and should not be infringed, because they represent the people of the state, the people of the country that they protect. So how can you limit their arms? If you do that, if you limit in their right to bear arms, you're limiting their right to protect the state. And so when it says the right of the people to keep and to bear arms, it's not talking about the right of all citizens. If it meant citizens, it would have said citizens. So you see, they lie. But anyway, it's just like the president who takes an oath to uphold the Constitution. To not only uphold it, but to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States to the best of his ability, in so many words. Now, how is he not violating that oath if he violates the law? And if he violates the law that he's supposed to uphold and that he promised to uphold, how can he be immune? Because violation of laws, in the violation of the laws of the Constitution, or violations of the law, period, are not part of his official duties. So how can he be immune simply because he was president when he broke the law? When he broke the law, he didn't break the law as president because the thing that he did that was against the law is not an official duty. Unless you can show me how anything that's his duty is against the law. Or not against the law, that actually, show me a law that says if the president does this, then it's okay. If the president commits Fifth Act, it's against the law for all citizens. But if the president does it, it's not against the law. What law says that? Okay. Now, before I get started on reading this second set of proverbs, and I want to make sure we all on the same page of that, and so we're going to into this, Brother Jamar, read the definition of proper.
PRO.
To the people.
PROFER, sir.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Put it in your phone. I can't. I ain't got this. But it was mentioned on here.
Yes, sir. 1 second, sir.
Ask, like you dictating a text, and just say what is the meaning of proper according to law, and print that out as a text, and it will spell it for you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
The meaning of...
You got people listening that, it's white people listening, it's lawyers listening, it's all kinds of people listening, but you know that they never chime in when I ask them about how to do something. You remember when I asked Newball, that white boy, that called himself a minister, and I asked him the meaning of a word that he used, and he told me to look it up. They don't want me to teach you, but they scared to talk to me. So go ahead. Just put that in there. Just say it. What is the? Look, I want to proffer some testimony, and see how you spell it, and then look up the word proffer.
Yes, sir. It says to offer something by holding it out, or to offer advice or an opinion.
Okay. To offer something by holding it out, or to offer it. Is that all you got there?
Let me keep scrolling, sir. 1 second.
How you spell it? Let me check something myself.
PROFER.
That's how they spelled it. Is that how they spelled it on that?
I see both, sir. PROFFER and PROFER, and I think the one with the 2 F's it might be the English spelling of it, but in England, but the British spelling of it, but I'm trying to double check that.
I didn't know if it was with 1 F or 2 F's. And I know I read it here, and I just can't find where the place where I read it at. How the special counsel and put it in there.
Okay, so I have a longer definition if you want me to read that to you.
Read it, brother.
Yes, sir. To offer for acceptance, tender, the act of proffering an offer. To put before a person for acceptance, an offer or proposal. A proposal offered for acceptance or rejection. Present, and it says verb, present for acceptance or rejection. To offer, hand over, present, extend, hold out. Suggest, propose, volunteer, submit, tender, propound. To put before another for acceptance. And then it has as a noun, something offered.
You see, that's what they do whenever you're having a criminal activity, and they want to enter a piece of evidence that is to go in the record, in the official record. They have to offer it or proffer it as an exhibit or whatnot. And you also have to give the other side. If you're the defense, you have to give the prosecution a copy of it, and vice versa. If you're the prosecutor, you have to give that to the defense. And so, and in this case, the special counsel, is proffering what he intends. He's given them a preview of evidence that he will show, intends to show, that Donald Trump don't have immunity for the things that he's charging him with, because it is not part of the duties of a president, and that he did it not as a president, but as a candidate, a citizen running for president. And so, that's what this 160-page brief motion is about. And it's brief just because it's a brief summary of what he, and if this is brief, 160 pages, I can imagine how long it's going to take to go through all of this stuff. But anyway.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Can I correct something I got wrong?
Oh, yeah, bro.
Yes, sir. I said that it was showing me the spelling for P-R-O-F-E-R, but there are indeed two F's in that word. I just wanted to correct that.
Well, what does the other one mean?
It showed it to me, sir, but when I looked further into it, I guess it was just showing that was a common misspelling of the word.
Okay. Thank you. And look, whenever I ask you all for something, you don't have to go through all of that 369 about, excuse me and all of that. Just excuse yourself and then say, this is what that other thing meant. We ain't got to be on eggshells talking to people or talking to each other. I don't require that at home, and so don't do it out in public. I don't want people to look at us like that. Anyway, now, is there anyone, do you have anyone that's had something they wanted to discuss with me or whatnot? It's just like I got a text from somebody telling me about life, they believe in life after death, and that I don't believe in that and whatever. Look, I don't do private teaching. I've told all of you that. So I told the person, if they want to discuss that with me, they can come into class, and you can discuss it with me whenever you like. But don't think that me and you got to have some kind of private conversation so you can go out and lie on me about what I said and all that kind of stuff. No. If you got something you want to talk to me about and think that you have some scriptures to back you up or whatever, you just come on in and share it with the people. It's not going to offend me if you show me that I made a mistake about something. You want to get mad when somebody shows you that you're wrong about something. I'm a truthful person. And I'll bear witness to the truth, even if it's against me. But you won't. That's why you like to talk in private. Anytime people get in public and say something, and then when you may show them want to argue with them about it, say, well, look, this ain't the place or the time for that. You can come and we can talk privately. No, we can't talk privately because you were saying all these things publicly. So I hold myself to that same standard. I said what I said publicly. Now, if you got a correction for me, the place to correct me is publicly. Otherwise, shut up. Now let's get on into this.
Excuse me, sir. We do have someone here Marion Williams, and he said, "Can you please pray for those in the storm who cannot afford to get out?"
Pray for people in the storm that can't afford to get out.
Yes, sir.
That's like saying if somebody tell you that you got to go, that it's a storm coming your way, and I think the man, the city officials told everybody that they need to leave. And one mayor told them, if you don't leave, you're going to die. Well, why would you stay there and ask me to pray for you? There's no such thing as can't afford to get out. Let me tell you something. If you're evicted from your house, can the law? Will the law help you if you say I can't afford to get out of here? Or will they just come and set your stuff out on the street? You see, every time I get on the air and invite you to listen to the Word of God, and every time you've heard me say, if you want to be safe, get behind me and stay there. Now you won't get behind me, and then you want me to offer blanket prayers for people. You know what? Let me turn to the 17th chapter of the book of John. When you say you can't afford to leave, you can't afford not to leave. Now, turn to the 17th chapter of the book of John. Brother Jamar, would you do me a favor? And just a moment, I'll read it myself. You know, sometimes people talk to me like they think I'm a preacher. You don't be comparing me to these lying preachers out here. First thing out of his mouth would have been, yeah, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you. And no, I want you to understand something. You're good for saying that Jesus, you act like Jesus prayed for everybody and that kind of thing. So let me show you something here. This is the 17th chapter of the book of John, and we're going to go to it and read it. And I'm going to start at the first verse. It says, "These words spake Jesus, and lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Father, the hour is come. Glorify thy Son, that thy Son also may glorify thee, as thou hast given him power over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as thou hast given him." You know, it's amazing to me how people can think that Jesus, when he was saying glorify thy Son, that thy Son may glorify thee, they thought he was talking about himself. But anyway, it says, "And this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Christ, whom thou hast sent." Now, because now you can tell that somebody has been making mischief with this, because they got down here that thou mayest, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. And yet, they say Jesus was saying this. but anyway, then he said, I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And now, O Father, remember Jesus said, I go to my Father, for my Father is greater than I am. He said, and now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self. He was saying the same thing that Paul had said before him. Paul said, when I'm absent, when the mind that's in this present body is absent from this body, that mind, I, that's who I is. You know, I is not the flesh. I is the mind speaking from the flesh and through the flesh. And so, as Jesus said, I have finished. I have glorified thee on earth. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. Well, if Jesus finished the work he came to do, why are you talking about he going to come back here and save you? That's like expecting after a man laid a foundation for a building, and him and that foundation crew leave, and he said, well, I'm finished. And then you paid him off. And why would you say you expecting him to come back? If he finished, he ain't got no more work to do for you. But anyway, then the 5th verse says, and now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self. Remember in the 16th chapter, he said, when he is come, the Spirit of truth, he will guide you into all truth. For he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear from the prophets, from the mouth of God, that shall he speak. And he will show you things to come. And he shall glorify me. Huh? Yeah. That's that 16th chapter, ain't it? Well, let's see. Let's make sure we ain't misquoting it. In the 13th verse, Jesus said in the 16th chapter of John, howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. For he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that shall he speak. And he will show you things to come. He shall glorify me. For he shall receive of mine, he shall receive this teaching that I'm giving you. He shall receive it and shall show you the understanding of it. He shall receive of mine and shall show it unto you. All things that the Father hath are mine. Therefore said I, that he shall receive, take of mine, and shall show it unto you. Now, in the next, that 17th chapter, he told you, he said, and now, O Father, he called the Spirit of truth the Father. He said, and now, O Father, this is the 5th verse, glorify thou me. He told you that when I come, I would glorify him. And that's what I'm doing. I am showing you the light of understanding that was coming through Jesus, but it came to you like Paul said when he said, and now we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery. Well, Jesus spoke it in parables, so you couldn't understand it. But now I am unveiling the hidden truth that was in what they spoke. I'm glorifying them. And so, but to get down to the what the man asked me, let's keep reading. It says, I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them to me, and they have kept thy word. Now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are from truly of thee, or for me to bear witness to you. And then he says, excuse me, for I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known truly or surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me, for they are thine. So, if you ask me to pray for people who ignored the truth, would you have asked Jesus to pray for the world when he said he didn't? He said, I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me. And all mine are thine, and thine are mine. I don't pray for none of these people that worship lies, that every time that worship means to speak. What is that noise in the background there? Who's doing that? Do it again. You don't want to hear what I have to say. You better get the hell on out of my room. So again, I say unto you, I pray not for the world, but for those that God have given me out of the world. I told you if they had been in the day of Jesus, they would have been hollering, crucify him. You hypocrites. You go pray to Donald Trump. Pray to him. Ask him for prayer. To hell with you and him. Now, brother, was there anybody else?
Just that person from last night, sir, the one that you're casting to hell.
He offered an apology?
No, sir.
Well, tell him don't come back in here until he does.
Yes, sir.
Don't expect to talk to me until he offers me an apology, and it better be sincere. I don't want none. I don't want to hear nothing from it, and I don't want you leaving none of his texts on his deals on. Matter of fact, I'm not going to tell you to block him because he might want to apologize, and if he does, I will hear his apology. Other than that, I mean, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when W.D. Muhammad, his own offspring, called him after Malcolm's assassination, he called the messenger and he said, Daddy, I would like to be on the platform with you at your Savior's Day. And after he greeted the messenger, and the messenger said, "Wa alaikum salam, Wallace." And that's when he said, "Daddy, I would like to be up on the platform with you at your Savior's Day." And his dad said, "That's good, son." He said, "But you're going to have to tell the people that you were wrong." And he said, "I know it, Daddy." So the messenger just hung up on him. And so the messenger knew he was a hypocrite. He knew Wallace was a hypocrite. I mean, if you left because you thought you was right, Now all of a sudden you think you're wrong and you're going to just come up and say I was wrong? What has changed? Had nothing changed. He had told the messenger had nothing changed when he said I would like to be with you on the platform at your Savior's Day. He didn't say at our Savior's Day. He said at your Savior's Day. But anyway, that's the way people do. They think they're fooling you, and they talk to you like you're stupid because they're used to talking to stupid people. Because a wise man see right through them. So, it's like a person want to come here and ask me to pray for people who ignore the truth. You want me to befriend people that ignore God? And then you want me to insult God by saying they don't like you, bless them, because they don't like you. Is that what you want me to do? Yeah, okay. Don't hold your breath. Now, I guess that cleared that up, so we don't spend enough time on that. Now, we left off on subtitle 2, Georgia, and it reads as follows. The defendant, Donald Trump. Every time I say defendant, I try to say Donald Trump because that's who the defendant is. It's Donald Trump. It says the defendant, Donald Trump, had early noticed that his claims of election fraud in Georgia were false. That's page 21, the last paragraph. There's, let me make sure I unmuted you. That's page 21, the last paragraph. It's the subtitle number 2, and it's entitled Georgia. It says, the defendant, Donald Trump, had early noticed that his claims of election fraud in Georgia were false. Well, the reason the special counsel put it like that is to remind the people who would inevitably be the jurors that even if Donald Trump convinced himself that his lie was the truth, because that's what he actually did. He lied. He knew it was false when he said it. But, you got some people that get so, it's like actors. Some actors, they will convince themselves, they'll lose themselves in the part so they can really play the part good. He'll really convince himself. It's just like in one movie I was looking at that they taught the this military man how to trick a lie detector, and you convince yourself that you are this particular person, and then when you are questioned about your not your alter ego, but your true self, then go into your alter ego and say, I have no knowledge of this. Then when you got to get back into your mode of I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing to me the lengths that they would go to push a lie. But anyway, so Donald Trump, he may have convinced himself that even though he made it up, he made up that he that said it so much that he did convince himself that it's true. But the people around him, the special counsel said the defendant, Donald Trump, had early notice that his claims of election fraud in Georgia were false. Around mid-November, campaign advisor, which would be private citizen number 4, told Donald Trump that his claim that a large number of dead people had voted in Georgia was false. And the defendant, Donald Trump, continued to press the claim anyway, including in a press appearance on November 29th, when he suggested that a large enough number of dead voters had cast ballots to change the outcome of the election in Georgia. 4 days later, on December the 3rd, co-conspirator number 1, which was Giuliani, orchestrated, I added Giuliani's name to it because it all fitted him like a glove. He said, co-conspirator number 1 orchestrated a presentation to a judiciary subcommittee. Remember when Giuliani went before a subcommittee in Georgia and made that assertion? Is that he co-conspirator Giuliani orchestrated a presentation to a judiciary subcommittee of the Georgia State Senate. In the morning, in advance of it, Giuliani had spoken to the defendant. That co-conspirator 1 had spoken to the defendant on the phone for almost 20 minutes. And at the hearing, co-conspirator 1 arranged for co-conspirators and agents to repeat the false dead voter claim. The claim was so patently false that everyone around the defendant knew it. During the hearing, Chief of Staff Private Citizen 21 and, Chief of Staff Private Citizen 21 and Private Citizen 9 exchanged text messages on their personal phones, confirming that a campaign attorney, confirming that a campaign attorney and Private Citizen 22 had verified that co-conspirator 1, Giuliani's claim of more than 10,000 dead voters was false, and that the actual number was around 12 and could not be outcome determinative. It was about 12 dead people voted. In Michigan, they prosecuted some 4 people for voting twice, and 3 more that was not just volunteers, but they was in the system, and they prosecuted them and accused them of helping them 4 voters that voted twice, of helping them do it. And so they being prosecuted. Matter of fact, I'll let you hear a little clip from that. They take voter fraud serious. The people of this just a moment.
With me today we have Daniel Hegman-Clark, our Chief of our Criminal Justice Bureau, Robin Liddell, Division Chief for our Criminal Trials, Heather Mingas, Chief.
Let me
of
see
our
if I can get it to come in louder on my other player. Just a moment.
Attorney General Dana Nexel, and
No, it ain't getting no better. But just listen.
Clark, our Chief of our Criminal Justice Bureau, Robin Liddell, Division Chief for our Criminal Trials, Heather Mingas, Chief of our Civil Rights and Elections Division. So 4 St. Clair Shores residents voted twice. Now, this is a crime. Did everybody? Yes. Okay. In 2024, in the August primary election in Michigan, 4 St. Clair Shores residents voted twice. Now, this is a crime, and my office is prosecuting the 4 voters and 3 municipal election employees for crimes related to double voting. 1 person, 1 vote. It's a simple but highly important American value we've all known since we were children. When people violate this principle, they violate state law and undermine the most basic tenets of our American democracy. But 4 individuals in St. Clair Shores did just that. They voted twice, once by absentee ballot and once again on Election Day at their local polling places. Here in Michigan, we have significant barriers in place to keep this from happening, but on August 6, 2024, those vital protections failed because 3 election workers violated the law by ignoring systemic warnings and knowingly, willfully, allowing double voting to occur. And for that reason, we are announcing criminal charges against not only the 4 double voters, but as I had mentioned, also against 3 assistant clerks who enabled this to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's get back to this. You see, it ain't as easy to mess over and mess with the electoral process as people think it is. And you know that's something that the wise ruler made sure of, that they don't. It's just like you go into the any place where people are trying to make sure that their business or anything that's valuable to them is secure. They don't broadcast what all of their safety features are. So, and you have to be very careful about who you let learn who those what those safety features are. You can let them have some of it, and I could say some things about well, I'll leave that alone. It says that 12, it was around the number, instead of being 10,000 dead people voted, around 12, and could not be outcome determinative. It wasn't going to change the outcome. And it says they did find 12 people that had voted that was dead. And it says, during the subcommittee hearing, the conspirators also set in motion a sensational and dangerous lie about election workers at State Farm Arena that would result in the defendants' Donald Trump's supporters, harassing and threatening those workers. First, private Citizen 23, one of the defendants, Donald Trump's private attorneys, claimed that more than 10,000 dead people had voted in Georgia. Next, private person 24 and agent of the defendant, Donald Trump, played misleading excerpts of closed-circuit camera footage from State Farm Arena and insinuated that it showed election workers committing misconduct, committed misconduct, counting suitcases of illegal ballots. Lastly, based on the false fraud allegations, co-conspirator 2, who had already been engaged as a private lawyer, that sounds like Sidney Powell, for the defendant, but did not disclose that at the hearing, encouraged the Georgia legislators to decertify the state's legitimate electors. While the hearing was ongoing, the defendant, Donald Trump, simultaneously amplified the mischief-making information about the, when you say misinformation, mischief-making information about the State Farm Arena election workers falsely tweeting. Wow! Explanation point. Blockbuster testimony taking place right now in Georgia. Ballot stuffing by Dems. When Republicans were forced to leave the large counting room. Plenty more coming. But this alone leads to an easy win of the state of Georgia. Yeah. He did this just after retweeting 2 of his campaign accounts' tweets that promoted the false claims about election workers at State Farm Arena. Over the next week, the claim of misconduct at State Farm Arena was disproven publicly as well as directly to the defendant, Donald Trump. The day after the hearing, Private Citizen 25, the chief operating officer of the Georgia Secretary of State's office, posted a tweet explaining that Secretary of State officers had watched the video in its entirety and confirmed that it showed, quote, normal ballot processing, unquote. Private Citizen 25 again forcefully debunked the conspirators' claim about the State Farm video in a press conference on December 7th, explaining at length the election workers' innocent conduct depicted in the closed-circuit camera footage, and stating, and this is what Private Citizen 25 stated. And what's really frustrating is the president's attorneys had this same videotape. They saw the exact same things the rest of us could see. And they chose to mislead state senators and the public about what was on that video. I'm quite sure that they will not characterize the video if they try to enter it into evidence, because that's the kind of thing that could lead to sanction because it is obviously untrue. In court, it's just like when you hear people like Jim Jordan and some of the rest of them clowns that's up there pretending to be senators and representatives declare things like, well, I wasn't under oath when I said that, and that kind of thing. When a man tells you that I wasn't under oath when I said that, what they're telling you is that I don't mind lying to you. I just won't go in court and say that because I'll get in trouble. Do you understand? He don't think he's going to get in trouble for lying to you. But anyway, he said, I'm quite sure that they will not characterize the video if they try to enter it into evidence, if they try to proffer it as evidence, because that's the kind of thing that could lead to sanctions. Because, you see, attorneys are officers of the court. It don't make no difference what side you represent. If you come in there and the court find that you knowingly represented a lie, they can sanction you, and they can also request that the bar suspend your license or maybe revoke your license. Because as an officer of the court, you're supposed to present truth only. How the hell you going to tell somebody, do you swear or affirm that you're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And you, an officer, making other people swear or affirm they're going to tell the truth, and you in there lying. Well, anyway, they knew it was untrue, and they continued to do things like this. You heard Sidney Powell's excuse for lying, talking about nobody in their right mind or no intelligent person or sane person would have believed what I said. That was her way of getting out of it, or trying to get out of it. With a sorry behind. On December 8th, I'm reading again. On December 8th, the defendant, Donald Trump, called Georgia Attorney General. Now, we all got that phone call. I ain't going to say we all, but I got that phone call on tape. He called the Attorney General. Excuse me. The defendant called Georgia Attorney General P26. And P26 had advance notice that the topic of the call was Texas versus Pennsylvania. No, that's not the one I got the copy of. It was to Mr. Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, the one that I got the copy of. So I'll correct that right now. And then it says, and he had advance notice that the topic of the call was Texas versus Pennsylvania, an election lawsuit in which Texas was suing other states, including Georgia, to attempt to prevent the certification of the election. U.S. Senator, private person 27, told private person 26 that, which was the Attorney General, he said that the defendant, Donald Trump, had heard that the Attorney General was whipping or lobbying other state attorneys general against filing amicus briefs in support of Texas. And let me make sure that in support of Texas, with that falsehood they was about to put. And private person 26 was not lobbying against the suit and told private person 27. So private person 27 asked private person 26 if he would speak with the defendant, Donald Trump, about it and AGs and encouraging them not to get on the lawsuit. Private Person 26 told the defendant, Donald Trump, that he was not affirmatively calling other state attorneys general, but that if they called him, he was telling them what he was seeing in his state, which was something that the defendant, Donald Trump, probably did not want to hear. Private Person 26 was just not seeing evidence of fraud in Georgia. And that's what Donald Trump didn't want to hear. And that's what the Attorney General, if they gave him a call, he was telling the other state Attorney Generals that we ain't seen no fraud in Georgia. The defendant, Donald Trump, nonetheless raised various fraud claims. And Private Person 26 told him that state authorities had investigated the State Farm Arena allegations and found no wrongdoing, and that he thought another claim the defendant raised about Coffee County, Georgia, had been similarly resolved, but would check. I'll check, but I think they didn't find nothing there either. It said the defendant, Donald Trump, asked Private Person, in other words, the Attorney General of Georgia, to look at them again. Look again. And then quote, because we're running out of time. and he tried to steer the call to an end by thanking the defendant, Donald Trump, and telling him that he had voted for him twice and appreciated the defendant, Donald Trump, to which the defendant responded, quote, yes, I did a hell of a job, didn't I? He said, didn't I? And, unquote. At one point, the defendant raised with Private Person 26 the impending runoff election for Georgia's U.S. Senate seat and how important it was to re-elect Private Person 27 and Private Person 28. So those, well, now we know that he's talking about the two Senate representatives, I guess. The day after the call, the defendant, Donald Trump, in his private capacity as a candidate for president, intervened in support of Texas versus Pennsylvania. His attorney, for that matter, was co-conspirator too, obviously Sidney Powell. On the same day as the defendant's call, the defendant, Donald Trump's call, with Private Person 26, the Attorney General of Georgia, the defendant, Donald Trump's campaign, I'm going to just say Donald Trump's campaign, Donald Trump's campaign staff acknowledged that the State Farm Arena claim was unsupported. In other words, they didn't have no proof and none of that stuff. He just threw it out there. You know how they say, throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. Emailing one another, you know, now it says that Donald Trump's campaign staff acknowledged that the State Farm Arena claim was unsupported, emailing one another about the fact that television networks may decline to run campaign advertisements or advertisements promoting it. In frustration regarding the claim and others like it, Private Person 4, who spoke with the defendant, Donald Trump on a daily, well, you just have to remember that the defendant is Donald Trump. So, who spoke with the defendant on a daily basis, and had informed him on multiple occasions that various fraud claims were false. He wrote, quote, when our research, this private person 4, talking here, quote, when our research and campaign legal team can't back up any of the claims made by our elite strike force legal team, you can see why we're 0 and 32 on our cases. I'll obviously hustle to help on all fronts, but it's tough to own any of this when it's all just conspiracy, and then he used the S word, conspiracy act. You know how we used to say, don't start no SH and it won't be no, IT or whatever. There's that conspiracy SH beamed down from the mothership. Well, all kinds of people was listening when the messenger was here, huh? It says, on December 10th, however, Rudy Giuliani, co-conspirator 1, further perpetuated the false State Farm Arena claim when he appeared at another hearing, this one before the Georgia House of Representatives Government Affairs Committee. During it, he displayed some of the same footage as had been used in the December 3rd hearing that had been debunked in the interim by Georgia officials, and nonetheless claimed that it showed, quote, voter fraud right in front of people's eyes, unquote. He then named 2 election workers, and you already knew who those 2 were. And here they are, Private Person 29 and Private Person 30, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. And Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, her mother. And then it says, and baselessly accused them of, quote, quite obviously, surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they are vials of heroin or cocaine, unquote. That's what Giuliani accused them 2 women of. No, 2 black women of. And suggested that they were criminals whose, quote, places of work, their homes, should have been searched for evidence of ballots, for evidence of USB ports, for evidence of voter fraud. Well, how was he accusing them of voter fraud if he didn't have no evidence of it? Anyway, as these false claims about Private Person 30 and Private Person 29 spread, as these false claims spread, the women were barraged by racist death threats. In the years since, they have spoken about the effect of the defendant and co-conspirators' lies about them. As Ms. Freeman explained in an interview with congressional investigators, quote, when someone as powerful as the President of the United States eggs on a mob, that mob will come. They came for us with their cruelty, their threats, their racism, and their hats. They haven't stopped even today, unquote. Indeed, to this day, the defendant, Donald Trump, has never stopped falsely attacking Ms. Freeman and her daughter. Although none of the false claims against them were ever corroborated, the defendant has continued to levy them on social media. You remember when them young men, the Central Park 5, I think they call them, they found out that them young men, through DNA evidence, were not the ones that was guilty. That nigga Donald Trump. That's right. You hear me what I call it? That nigga Donald Trump said that they should get the death penalty. You see, people like him, they always go after people that they think can't defend themselves. They always go after people that they think that it's nothing that that person that they're going after can do about it. You're going to pick the wrong one day, boy. You watch what I tell you. So, it says, indeed, to this day, the defendant, Donald Trump, has never stopped falsely attacking Ms. Freeman and her daughter. Although none of the false claims against them were ever corroborated, the defendant has continued to levy them on social media, including when the defendant attacked Ms. Freeman in January 2023, just after her testimony to congressional investigators was made public. Throughout the post-election period, the defendant used Twitter to publicly attack Georgia Governor, Private Person 17, with particular aggression. In the 35 days between November 30th, 2020 and January 3rd, 2021, the defendant tweeted critically about Private Person 17 by name or title more than 40 times. These tweets included the ones also attacking Private Person 16, described above, as well as others particular to Private Person 17, like, quote, why won't Governor Private 17, the hapless governor of Georgia, use his emergency powers, which can be easily done, to overrule his obstinate Secretary of State? And you remember Mr. Raffensperry, who Donald Trump even tried to threaten him into finding 11,708 votes. All I need is 11,708 votes, man. Huh? Yeah. Which can be, he said, the hapless governor of Georgia, why can't he use his emergency powers, which can be easily done, to overrule his obstinate Secretary of State and do a match of signatures on envelopes? It will be a gold mine of fraud, and we will easily win the state, unquote. And quote again, I will easily and quickly win Georgia if Governor P17 or the Secretary of State permit a simple signature verification. Has not been done. And will show large-scale discrepancies. Why are these two quote-unquote Republicans saying no? Why are these two quote-unquote Republicans saying no? If we win Georgia, everything else falls in place. Explanation point. End quote. Quote, the Republican governor of Georgia refuses to do signature verification, which would give us an easy win. What's wrong with this guy? What is it? Why that Donald Trump, that frog? Well, I'm telling you, what is he hiding? And how does Governor P17 allow certification of votes without verifying signatures? And despite the recently released case of ballots being stuffed, tell me something. When you got a up-to-date roll of who votes, and people send votes in, whether it's by mail, and you checking them off, you have to sign off when you vote. You know, when you vote in person, and you have to sign off when you vote by mail. Now, if the people, you know, even when people die, the coroner, you know, they got undertakers and all of this kind of thing. They get death certificates, and those are state verified, you know, by state. That's why it's so hard to. That's how they know when you done voted, and the person that voted, somebody voted for a dead person. they got records of all of this stuff, man. Ain't no sense in you coming up here with that foolishness. Somebody verified signature. If somebody voted and used your name to vote and voted wrong, and you come up there to vote and say, well, you already voted. Say, no, I didn't. Now it's time for a signature check. And that's how you do that. But anyway, these people, man. And then Donald Trump said his poll numbers, talking about the governor that wouldn't go along with him, his poll numbers have dropped like a rock. He is finished as governor. Explanation point. End quote. In post-election period, the defendant, Donald Trump, also made false claims in court. Well, I'll do it when I feel like it, and when I don't, I won't. This, I'm to my call out Donald Trump, and when I say defendant, or vice versa. In the post-election period, post is always after the election. In the post-election period, the defendant, Donald Trump, also made false claims in court about fraud in Georgia, unsuccessfully. For example, in Trump versus Governor Kemp, a federal lawsuit in which the defendant sued Georgia's governor and Secretary of State, Raffensperry, the defendant, Donald Trump, signed a verification of fraud allegations that he and his attorney on the case, co-conspirator two, which must have been that Sidney Powell woman, knew was inaccurate. See, he needs to be charged for that. But anyway, Private Person 9 spoke with the defendant, Donald Trump, and co-conspirator two, that silly woman, Sidney Powell, in late December regarding the proposed verification. First, he told Sidney Powell and another private attorney, Private Person 31, that they could not have the defendant sign. They couldn't have Donald Trump to sign it because they could not verify any of the facts. And Private Person 9 told the defendant, Donald Trump, that any lawyer that signed the complaint, that the verification supported, would get disbarred. I think he meant that that verification. Yeah, if he signed the complaint, that the verification supported would get disbarred for putting false info into the court record knowingly. Now let me go back and make sure I read that right. And Private Person 9 told the defendant, Donald Trump, that any lawyer that signed the complaint that the verification supported of there being no facts to back up would get disbarred. I'm deciphering with him. Now I'm trying to decipher what he's trying to say because someone needed to really proof this a little better. And they acknowledged this problem in an email on December 31st to Private Person 32, lead counsel for the defendant as candidate in Trump versus Kemp, and another private attorney writing that in the time since the defendant signed a previous verification in the case, he, quote, has been made aware that some of the allegations and evidence proffered, they spelled proffered here, Proffered, by the experts has been inaccurate, and that signing a new affirmation, quote, with that knowledge and incorporation by reference would not be accurate. Nonetheless, on December 31st, Donald Trump signed the verification, and co-conspirator 2 caused it to be filed. Donald Trump cannot about signing on to a lie. On January 2nd, Georgia Secretary of State, Private Person 33, appeared on Fox News and said that various rumors of election fraud were false, and the defendant, Donald Trump, had lost in Georgia. And this is what he said. Our office this is Mr. Raffensperger's statement. Georgia Secretary of State appeared on Fox News and said the following here. Our office has been very busy with what I call the rumor whack-a-mole. Every day a rumor will pop up, and then we whack it down. What we do is we basically whack it down with the truth. And people can't handle the truth. Sometimes because they are very disappointed in the result. And I get that. I voted for President Trump also. But at the end of the day, we did everything we could. We did an audit of the race. President Trump still lost. Then we did a full recount. President Trump still lost. We had a safe, secure process. Person 33 like person 17, the Secretary of State, like the governor, had been on the receiving end of the defendant's tweets. These included, quote, why isn't the GA Secretary of State and Raffensperger, a so-called Republican, allowing us to look at signatures on envelopes for verification? We will find tens of thousands of fraudulent and illegal votes. Rhinos, quoting Trump, rhinos, P-17 and P-34, private persons, the governor and the Secretary of State. And P-17, P-34, and Secretary of State P-33 will be solely responsible for the potential loss of our great senators from Georgia, P-27 and P-28. P-27 and P-28 won't call a special session or check for signature verification. People are angry. And, quote, Georgia, where is signature verification approval? What do you have to lose? That's what he said to black people then. When he tried to get our vote, about what do you have to lose? Well, first they had a manhood to lose to listen to an asshole like you, man. So anyway, must move quickly. That's what he said. And then person 17, person 34. This is his tweet. He's so cowardly, he only writes notes. I guess he do that so he can claim, I didn't write that. Do you understand? He's when we was in school, we had a few people who would talk real tough, and when somebody called them on and said, man, I ain't said nothing like that. They deny saying it when you call them on. Say, who told you that? I ain't never said no such thing. And they did say it. So, shortly after seeing the interview, Donald Trump set up a call with private person 33 to discuss his pending private lawsuit, Trump versus Kemp, in which private person 33 was a named defendant. For this reason, private person 33 at first hoped to avoid speaking with the defendant, but ultimately acquiesced because the defendant, Donald Trump, was persistent and seeking to set it up. Also, because of the pending lawsuit, private person 33 arranged for his general counsel, private person 35, to participate. Joining the defendant on the call were Chief of Staff, that must have been Mark Meadows, and private person 21, and 3 private attorneys, private person 32 and private person 36, counsel of record in Trump versus Kemp, and the attorneys whom co-conspirator 2, Sidney Powell, had emailed about the defendant's false verification, and private person 31, whom private person 21 introduced on the call as someone, quote, who is not the attorney of record, but has been involved, unquote. The defendant began the call Donald Trump began the call with an animated monologue in which he argued that he had won the election in Georgia, saying, quote, "Okay, thank you very much. Hello, Private Person 33. Hello, and Private Person 35. And everybody." He said hello to them too and everybody. We appreciate the time and the call. So we spent a lot of time on this. And if we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won. We won very substantially. Georgia. Throughout the call, the defendant continued to state that he had won and referenced Biden's margin of victory that he needed to overcome to prevail in the state, including by asserting that I just want to find 11,780 votes. He did not reference other elections on the same ballot. After the defendant's opening salvo, Private Person 33 stated, I listened to what the president has just said. President Trump, we've had several lawsuits, and we've had to respond in court to the lawsuits and the contention. We don't agree that you have won. The defendant raised multiple false claims of election fraud, each of which the Secretary of State responded and refuted in turn. When the defendant attacked Private Person 30, called her, quote, a professional, that was Ruby Freeman, called her a professional vote scammer and hustler, and mentioned her dozens of times throughout the call. Private Person 33, which was the Secretary of State, said, quote, you're talking about the State Farm video? And you're talking about the State Farm video, and I think it's extremely unfortunate that Giuliani, on his or his people, they sliced and diced that video and took it out of context. He then offered the defendant a link to a video disproving the claim, to which Trump responded, I don't care about a link. I don't need it. I have as much Ruby Freeman. I have a much better link. He said, I have a much, and then he says P33, person 33. I have a much better link. I know, I see what happened there. Donald Trump was saying, I don't need it. And person 33 said, I have a much better link. When the defendant claimed that 5,000 dead people had voted in Georgia, the Secretary of State said, quote, well, Mr. President, the challenge you have is the data you have is wrong. The actual number were two. Two people that were dead that voted. And so that's wrong. That was two. Unquote. When the defendant claimed that thousands of out-of-state voters going through each of those as well. And those numbers that we got, that Miss Person 31 was just saying, they're not accurate. And that's why they opened this by saying we've been playing whack-a-mole. Every time we shoot down one lie, he come up with another. And so he says, at one point, the defendant, Donald Trump, became frustrated after both Raffensperger and his attorney explained repeatedly that his claims had been investigated and were not true, and stated, quote, and you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. Donald Trump, I think they quote him exactly, because, I mean, it don't make no sense the way he talks. Anyway, it says, and, quote, you're gonna, instead of gonna find, it's got gonna to find, that they are, after they told him it was false, he said that they are, which is totally illegal. And it's more illegal for you than it is for them, because you know what they did, and you're not reporting it. Now he's threatening them on the slide. That's a criminal. You know, we got that on tape. I got that one. That's a criminal. You know, that's a criminal offense. That's a criminal. You know that's a criminal offense. And you know you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to your lawyer. That's a big risk. The call ended with person 35 stating that he would coordinate with the lawyer representing person 33 office in the private lawsuit and get together with private person 32 as agreed earlier in the call. The day after the call on January 3rd, the defendant falsely tweeted, I spoke to Secretary of State Raffensperger yesterday about Fulton County and voter fraud in Georgia. He was unwilling or unable to answer questions such as the ballot under table scam, ballot destruction, out-of-state voters, dead voters, and more. He has no clue. And now you talk about somebody who know how to play around with words. Donald Trump, that's him. Person 33 promptly responded in a tweet of his own, quote, respectfully, President Trump, what you're saying is not true. The truth will come out. And unquote. That's what the Secretary of State responded. Now, this is subtitle 3. Michigan. On November 20th, 3 days before Michigan's governor signed a certificate of ascertainment appointing Biden's electors based on the popular vote, the defendant met with person 37 and person 38, Michigan's Senate Majority Leader and Speaker of the House, at the Oval Office. The defendant initiated the meeting by asking the Republican National Committee chairwoman, person 39, to reach out to person 38 and gauge his receptivity to a meeting. The defendant also asked person 39 to participate in the meeting, but person 39 told him that she had consulted with her attorney and that she could not be involved in a meeting with legislators because it could be perceived as lobbying. After person 39 made the first contact on November 18th, the defendant Donald Trump reached out to person 37 and person 38 to extend an invitation. The same day that he contacted person 37 and 38, the defendant, Donald Trump, issued a false tweet. In Detroit, there are far more votes than people. Nothing can be done to cure that giant scam. I win Michigan. When the defendant called person 37 and person 38 to invite them to the White House, he did not provide the topic of the meeting, but he did ask about allegations of fraud in the election in Michigan. The legislators told him that they and the Michigan legislature were examining the allegations. Both P37 and P38 assumed that the defendant, Donald Trump, wanted to see them to discuss claims of election fraud. And they wanted to be firm that they had not seen evidence that would change the outcome of the election. For this reason, and to avoid talking only about election fraud, they prepared materials to raise regarding COVID-19 and plan to advance to release a statement and planned in advance to release a statement once the meeting was over that said that the legislators were unaware of information that would change the outcome of the election. Over the course of the meeting, the defendant dialed in both P39, person 39, private person 39, despite her request not to participate, and co-conspirator 1 and person 21, Giuliani and that other person 21, was present for some, but not all of the meeting. After some small talk with the legislators in the Oval Office, the defendant raised various fraud claims, including that he had lost Michigan because of fraud or misconduct in Wayne County, where Detroit is located. Person 37 corrected the defendant, Donald Trump, and told him that he had lost primarily because in 2 routinely Republican counties, the defendant, Donald Trump, had underperformed with educated females. And if he had received the same number of votes there as the 2 winning local sheriffs, he likely would have won Michigan. Person 37 could tell by the defendant's body language that he was unhappy to hear person 37, private citizen 37, I'll just say person 37, person 37's assessment. Notably, the defendant only raised fraud claims to the extent that they affected the outcome in his own race, not those for other offices in Michigan. Co-conspirator 1, Giuliani participation came after the legislators assured the defendant that they were looking into fraud claims. The defendant dialed Giuliani into the meeting and said, "Giuliani, tell them what's going on." And then co-conspirator one, Giuliani, then launched into a fraud monologue. Finally, person 37 interrupted and asked, quote, "So when are you going to file a lawsuit in Michigan?" Unquote. A question that co-conspirator one ignored and did not answer. Immediately after the meeting, person 37 and person 38 released a public statement in which they stated that they had, quote, "not yet been made aware of any information that would change the outcome of the election in Michigan," unquote. On November 21st, the defendant acknowledged person 37 and person 38 statement when he tweeted, quote, "This is true, but much different than reported by the media," unquote, and implicitly conceded that he had not provided evidence of fraud yet when he added, quote, "We will show massive and unprecedented fraud," explanation point, unquote. Days later, the defendant's campaign, Trump's campaign, declined to request a statewide recount in Michigan, for which it would have had to pay unless the recount succeeded in changing the outcome of the election. Despite failing to establish any valid fraud claims, Giuliani followed up with person 37 and person 38 and attempted to pressure them to use the Michigan legislature to overturn the valid election results. On December 4th, Giuliani sent a message to person 38 claiming that Georgia was poised to do so based on Giuliani and Sidney Powell's false advocacy there in the December 3 hearing, and asked person 38 for help. Quote, "Looks like Georgia may well hold some factual hearings and change the certification under Article 2, Section 1, C12. I guess that's, or maybe that's C1 and 2 of the Constitution. As Sidney Powell explained, they don't just have the right to do it, but the obligation. Help me get them, help me get this done in Michigan, unquote. On December 7th, Giuliani attempted to send person 37 a message, though failed because he typed the wrong number into his phone. Quote, "So I need you to pass a joint resolution from the Michigan legislature that states that the election is in dispute. There's an ongoing investigation by the legislature, and the electors sent by Governor Whitmer are not the official electors of the state of Michigan and do not fall within the safe harbor deadline of December 8th under Michigan law," unquote. Giuliani tried to get, that's what he was going to send to someone in the position to do that. Campaign corporations
campaign operative P5 was involved in the drafting of this message with the assistance of P41, person 41, who was associated with the defendant's campaign efforts in Michigan. The following day, co-conspirator 1 shared the draft with the defendant, Donald Trump, sending it to his executive assistant, person 42, by email. These efforts failed. On December 14th, the day that the duly appointed electors across the country met and cast their electoral votes, person 37 and 38 issued public statements confirming that the defendant, Donald Trump, had lost Michigan, and the legislators still had not received evidence of outcome determinative fraud in their state. Person 37, public statement included, quote, we have not received evidence of fraud on a scale that would change the outcome of the election in Michigan. Person 38 stated in part, we've diligently examined these reports of fraud to the best of our ability. I fought hard for President Trump. Nobody wanted him to win more than me. I think he's done an incredible job. But I love our republic. I love our republic, too. I can't fathom risking our norms, traditions, and institutions to pass a resolution retroactively changing the electors for Trump, simply because some think there may have been enough widespread fraud to give him the win. That's unprecedented for good reason, and that's why there is not enough support in the House to cast a new slate of electors. I fear we'd lose our country forever. This truly would bring mutually assured destruction for every future election in regards to the Electoral College. And I can't stand for that. I won't. On January 3rd, the defendant's campaign publicly posted person 37 phone call, person 37 phone number, and attempted to post person 38, but erred by one digit. In a tweet, now he's going to give out their phone number. That's what bullies do. They stick their dogs on you. That's why the scriptures in Ezekiel compare them to scorpions. See, a scorpion's poison is in his tail. In movies they used to use the term put a tail on it. I mean, follow him. Trail him wherever he goes. Follow him. Well, Donald Trump, his followers, when he posts somebody's phone number, then they understand, call them and threaten them, call them and harass them. And yeah, you're going to call the wrong one day. keep on tripping like that. You're going to find out that everybody can't be bullied. You better look at nature, man. Let me tell you something. I done told you this before. The same God that made that bad lion. I mean, that lion is a bad fella. But that Bengal tiger ain't scared of him. Them rattlesnakes, them rattlers and them great big fellas that's tough, man. The king snake can deal with them. you better go back through history. When you was in elementary school even, junior high and high school, didn't one thing always stood out? That fellow who was always starting stuff with people, he started it with the wrong one day. And that was the end of him. And you just keep on. You're going to meet the right one after a while. So, it says, on January 3rd, the defendant's campaign publicly posted person 37's phone number and attempted to post person 38, but erred by one digit in a tweet urging, quote, contact Speaker and Senate Majority Leader. Contact. 37, person 37. Person 37 received 4,000 text messages in 2 hours, forcing him to get a new phone number. Tell you what, from now on, all of y'all that's trying to do the right thing, my number is 601-786-1332. And anybody that call you and threaten you, give me a holler. Just give me a call. Matter of fact, you ain't even got to do that. From henceforth, if you trying to do what's right, and somebody call and threaten you, you may get 1 or 2 calls from that person. But 3 strikes and they're out. The hell with them. That's my judgment. And now I will just say amen, amen, and amen. Let's fix that. You know, judges can sit. Let me explain something to you. See, now, I can do that because you can understand a judge being able to do that. The reason I know you can understand that is because judges don't even have to meet the person that they sign a warrant out for. All you have to do is be told this person did this and this person did that, and we got reasonable belief that he's that, and we need to find him. We need to go search his house. Now the judge don't know nothing about the house, don't know nothing about the person, but the judge knows about people who are trying to uphold and enforce the law and to protect and serve the upstanding and citizens of the country. And so the judge was signing an order that gives them people permission to go and get you and go and get your. So I just ordered what needs to be done to you. It's just like them people down there, like man asked me, am I going to pray for them people that couldn't afford to leave their house from this hurricane that's coming down there. You can't afford not to leave. You fix it how you want, because when they first told you to get out, I know that they had all kinds of ways and means for you to get out of there yourself. They may not have been able to pack your furniture and stuff up out of there. And I think that's what they meant. They couldn't afford to to rent nothing to take their furniture out. You can get more furniture. Can you get another behind? You'd be surprised how that ain't even no debate about what you gonna save. If you gonna save anything, you better save yourself or your furniture, and you ain't gonna need it no way. Unless you know something I don't about somebody you all going to the cemetery. But anyway, so received 4,000 text messages in 2 hours, forcing him to get a new phone number. Now let's go to, we done been to Georgia and Michigan. Now let's go to Nevada. Now let's see what happened in Nevada. Subtext 4. On November 17th, in Law versus Whitmer, agents of the defendant, Donald Trump, in Nevada filed a suit claiming substantial irregularities, improprieties, and fraud in the presidential election, including based on machines used in ballot signature matching and votes by non-resident and dead voters. The defendant, Donald Trump, approved a press conference by his surrogate announcing the suit. On November 19th, Person 43, the RNC Chief Counsel, sent an email to Person 44, an RNC spokesperson, warning about inaccuracies in the suit. Quote, just FYI, just for your information, that I don't believe the claims in the contest regarding dead voters. Those voting from out of state, etc., are substantiated. We are working with the campaign on a data matching project, and those numbers are going to be a lot lower than what the Nevada people have come up with. They, I guess that's what NV means, Nevada people. They are also targeting our military voters. To be frank, the contest has little chance of succeeding. Happy to discuss this stuff if you want more info. Person 44 then sent a copy of Person 43's email from her personal email account to the personal email account of Person 45. One of the defendants, Donald Trump's White House staffers, who also volunteered for the campaign. Notwithstanding the RNC Chief Counsel, the Chief Counsel's warning, the defendant, Donald Trump, retweeted and amplified news of the lawsuit on November 24. He doubled down on it, didn't he? And so he amplified news of the lawsuit on November 24th, calling it, quote, big news, explanation point, that a Nevada court had agreed to hear it, but the defendant did not similarly promote the fact that within 2 weeks, on December 4th, the Nevada District Court dismissed Law versus Whitmer, finding in a detailed opinion that, quote, there is no credible or reliable evidence that, when you sue, as they say, you can sue a ham sandwich. I mean, I got a lawsuit here. Till people find out what you doing, then they realize you heard Joe saying it's better to remain silent and be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. It's better to be thought of as an intelligent lawyer or intelligent politician than to file a lawsuit that has no merit at all and remove all doubt that you were fooled. And so this is what happened here. Now let me go back to reading. It says, but the defendant, Donald Trump, did not similarly promote the fact that within 2 weeks, on December 4th, the Nevada District Court dismissed Law versus Whitmer. You know, Whitmer is the governor of Michigan, I think. Finding in a detailed opinion that there is no credible or reliable evidence that the 2020 general election in Nevada was affected by fraud. So I guess it's more than one Whitmer here. Including through the signature match machines, and that Biden won the election in the state. 4 days later, on December 8th, Nevada's Supreme Court unanimously affirmed the district court's decision, noting that despite its earlier order asking the appellate to identify specific findings with which they can issue, appellants have not pointed to any unsupported factual findings, and we have identified none. Later, in his ellipse speech on January 6th, the defendant repeated multiple claims explicitly rejected by Nevada courts. On December 18th, Nevada Secretary of State's office released a, quote, facts versus myths document to combat dishonest information that the defendant and others were propagating about the election, including false claims that the Secretary of State's office had not investigated claims of fraud, even though it had, quote, been presented with evidence of widespread fraud. Now that's what Donald Trump and them said, that they had presented widespread fraud, but the Secretary of State's office didn't investigate. To which the office responded, quote, while we are pursuing action in a number of isolated cases, we have yet to see any evidence of widespread fraud, unquote. The, quote, unquote, facts versus myths document also stated publicly that courts had universally rejected fraud claims. Quote, 4 separate cases were heard by Nevada judges, including Nevada Supreme Court. After examining records that were presented, each case was discounted due to lack of evidence. Okay? Now, subtitle, that's Nevada. Now let's go to Pennsylvania. 2 days after, I think Pennsylvania was the place where the judge asked Rudy Giuliani, was he saying that there was fraud in the election? He said, no, that's not what we're saying. Giuliani got up there because he knew he couldn't prove that, and he would have been putting his license in jeopardy at that time, which he finally lost it anyway. But anyway, 2 days after the election, on November 6th, the defendant called Person 46 the chairman of the Pennsylvania Republican Party. The entity responsible for supporting Republicans. Supporting the entity that's responsible for supporting Republican candidates in the Commonwealth at the federal, state, and local level. Person 46 had a prior relationship with the defendant, including having represented him in litigation in Pennsylvania after the 2016 presidential election. The defendant asked person 46 how, without fraud, he had gone from winning Pennsylvania on election day to trailing in the days after. Consistent with what campaign staff already had told the defendant, person 46 confirmed that it was not fraud. It was that there were roughly 1,750,000 mail-in ballots still being counted in Pennsylvania, which were expected to be 80% for Biden. Over the following 2 months, the defendant, Donald Trump, spread false claims of fraud in Pennsylvania anyway. In early November, in a campaign meeting, when the defendant suggested that more people in Pennsylvania voted than had checked in to vote, deputy campaign manager, the sad part is, the only one who would believe that is somebody had to be dumber than a bag of nails. Because if you think about it, how could more people vote than is on the voter roll and they not know it? You don't go up there and say, hey, I'm ready to vote, and then they write your name down. No, they already got your name up there. And they also have a pretty good census of how many people are in their state. But when you tell a lie, a person that tells lies, they don't have a good connection to reality. Otherwise, they would never put their trust in lying. Because everything that you say and do, reality will either bear you witness or reality will prove you are lying. Eventually. You got some problems. Life is like those equations. Like long, just like to solve what Einstein's E equals mc squared. Now that's a simple thing, but it had to be worked out to be proved whether it was true or not. And that requires a lot of other figures to be put on board. Okay, so when you look at a person that tell a lie, okay, if you tell the truth, you ain't never got to remember what you said. If you tell a lie, you ain't going to remember everything you said no way. If somebody asks you about a conversation that you had earlier in the day, if they ask you, tell me how your day's conversations went, you ain't going to remember every conversation you had with nobody. You only remember parts of it. But the important part, you remember the purposes more so than the small talk. And so this is the way lies always entrap people. You see, when you tell a lie about an important situation, something or with some place where you really were not. It's just like in The Godfather, when the boy tried to pretend, Fredo tried to pretend that he had never met this man before, Johnny Oates or whatever, and told Michael when they were first introduced, he said, "Oh, I'm pleased to meet you." And they was acting like they had known each other. And then Fredo got a little of that oil in him and forgot that he had said he didn't know Johnny Oates. And it all came out, and Michael just looked at him. This ain't nice. But he told on himself. So, but anyway, these people, they lie and lie and lie, and after a while, you start realizing that these people put their trust in their ability to lie. That's why con men, they always wind up going back to jail. Because even when they go to jail, it don't reform them. They just say, "Oh, I know where I messed up. I messed up when I did this, or I did that." Instead of saying that living a life lying is going to always end bad. It ain't going to never have a good end. When it's all said and done, the lie is going to desert the liar. That's why I say the devil ever deserts man. You know when when your thoughts abandon you, that's what your thoughts desert you. Yeah, well, that's because they weren't connected to anything that was real. They can't help but desert you. The truth that you remember them because they are connected to reality. They are connected to something that is truly real. And so that's how you remember them. But if you just made it up, you ain't got nothing to connect it to. It ain't got no root in you. So, anyway. It says, where did I leave off, bro? In early November, I'm going to just start there. I'm going to start at the second paragraph. In early November, in a campaign meeting, when the defendant suggested that more people in Pennsylvania voted than had checked in to vote, Deputy Campaign Manager P3 corrected him. Around the same time, Philadelphia City Commissioner P47, person 47, appeared on television and stated that there was no evidence of widespread fraud in Philadelphia. After seeing the interview, Donald Trump targeted person 47, tweeting, quote, "A guy named person 47, a Philadelphia commissioner and so-called Republican, a rhino, is being used big time by the fake news media to explain how honest things were with respect to the election in Philadelphia. He refuses to look at a mountain of corruption and dishonesty. We win." Unquote. As a result of the defendant's attack, threat that P47 already was receiving became more targeted and detailed and included his address and the names of his family members. On the defendant's behalf, Giuliani took, on Donald Trump's behalf, Giuliani too spread patently false claims about Pennsylvania. On November 25th, Giuliani and P12 attended and P12 attended an unofficial hearing with Republican state legislators in a Gettysburg Hotel conference room. The defendant called in and claimed to have been watching and demanded that the election in Pennsylvania, quote, has to be turned around, unquote. During the event, Giuliani falsely stated that Pennsylvania issued 1.8 million absentee ballots and received 2.5 million in return. The claim was rooted in an obvious error. The comparison of the number of ballots sent out in the primary election to the number of ballots received in the general election after seeing Giuliani make this claim, person 43, the RNC's chief counsel, tweeted publicly, "This is not true," unquote. That was quote, end quote. He said, "This is not true." In the following days, campaign staff internally confirmed that Giuliani was lying. When one campaign staffer wrote in an email that Giuliani's claim was just, quote, just wrong, unquote, and, quote, there's no way to defend it, quote, and end quote. And then another quote, person 3 responded, "We, quote, we have been saying this for a while. It's very frustrating," unquote. Likewise, in late November or December, person 9 informed the defendant, Donald Trump, directly that a claim Giuliani was spreading that, quote, Pennsylvania received 700,000 more mail-in ballots than were mailed out, unquote, was BS. And you know, he didn't say BS here. He said he wrote the words out. And now he ain't talking about no BS degree either. And explained the error. And person 43 followed up on his public tweet in a private email on November 28th to person 44, the RNC spokesperson, expressing his concern about Giuliani and person 12 spreading of dishonest information. Quote, "I'm really not trying to give you a hard time, but what Giuliani and person 12 are doing is a joke, and they are getting laughed out of court. It's setting us back in our fight for election integrity, and they are misleading millions of people who have wishful thinking that the president is going to somehow win this thing," unquote. When Giuliani learned of person 43 tweet and email on November 28th, he called person 43 and left a threatening voicemail stating, quote, "I really do need an explanation for what you said today, because if there isn't a good one, you should resign. Got it? So call me or I'll call the boss." Now we getting at it. He calling the boss. You know who the boss is? DJT. As it says, "I'll call the boss and get you to resign. Call me. It'd be better for you if you do." Giuliani also contacted the RNC chairwoman, person 39, to demand that person 43 be fired. And thereafter, person 43 was relieved of his duties as RNC Chief Counsel. On December 3rd, 4 Republican leaders of the Pennsylvania legislature issued a public letter stating that the General Assembly lacked the authority to overturn the popular vote and appoint its own slate of electors, and that doing so would violate the state election code and constitution. Person 48, an agent of the defendant who worked closely with Giuliani, issued a tweet showing the 4 legislators' names and signatures and wrote, quote, "These are the 4 cowardice Pennsylvania cowardice. These are the 4 cowardice Pennsylvania." It game spelled cowardly, obviously. But anyway, these are the 4 cowardice Pennsylvania legislators that intend to allow the Democrat machine to steal. They got steal the, all one word. Steal the vote. Cowards, liars, traitors, while linking to their the legislators' Twitter accounts. On Sunday, December 6th, at 12:56 a.m. from the White House residence, having just returned from a political rally in Valdosta, Georgia, Donald Trump retweeted and amplified P48's post. Now this next one is in Wisconsin. Now we went from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin, number 6. On November 29th, a recount that the defendant's campaign had petitioned and paid for confirmed that Biden had won in Wisconsin and increased the defendant's margin of defeat. On December 14th, the Wisconsin Supreme Court rejected the campaign's election lawsuit there. As a result, on December 21st, Wisconsin's governor signed a certificate of final determination confirming the prior certificate of ascertainment that established Joe Biden's electors as the valid electors for the state. In response, the defendant issued a series of tweets attacking person 49, the Wisconsin Supreme Court justice who had written the majority opinion rejecting his campaign's lawsuit and advocating that the Wisconsin legislature overturn the valid election results. 2 years ago, the great people of Wisconsin asked me to endorse a man named P49 for state Supreme Court justice when he was getting destroyed in the polls against a tough Democrat candidate who had no chance of losing. After my endorsement, P49 easily won. Wow. He just voted against me in a big court decision on voter fraud, of which there was much. That's what Donald Trump, and this is Donald Trump tweet. Despite many pages of dissent from 3 highly respected justices, one thing has nothing to do with another, but we ended up losing 4-3 in a really incorrect ruling. Great Republicans in Wisconsin should take these 3 strong decisions to their state legislatures and overturn this ridiculous state election. We won in a landslide. After Donald Trump's tweet, the state marshals responsible for person 49's safety, arranged to provide person 49 with additional police protection based on social media traffic, and other threatening communications. Ain't that something? Okay. Subtitle 7. Voting machines in multiple states. Now you see what they meant when they say whack-a-mole. Every time they disprove one thing and it falls through, they come up with another lie. Throughout the post-election period, the defendants and co-conspirators repeatedly made claims about the security and accuracy of voting machines across multiple states, despite the fact that they were on notice that the claims were false as early as November 12th. For instance, the National Association of Secretaries of State, the National Association of State Election Directors, and other coordinated federal, state, and private entities issued a public statement declaring that the 2020 election was, quote, the most secure in American history, unquote, and that there was, quote, no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. On November 14th, in the tweet announcing that Giuliani was to lead his campaign's legal efforts, the defendant, Donald Trump, also named co-conspirator 3, a private attorney who was fixated on voting machine claims, and person 10, another private attorney, 2 days later, on November 16th, on the defendant's behalf, executive assistant, person 42, and co-conspirator 3, and other private attorneys, an email titled, quote, from POTUS, unquote, attaching a document containing bullet points critical of conspirator 3. A copy that manufactured voting machines, a company that manufactured voting machines used in certain states, and writing, see attached, please include as is, or also or almost as is in the lawsuit. Co-conspirator 3 responded 9 minutes later, writing, quote, it must go in all suits in Georgia and Pennsylvania immediately with a fraud claim that requires the entire election to be set aside. And he did it in all caps there. That statement was in all caps. In those states, and machines impounded for nonpartisan professional inspection. On November 17th, person 50, the director of the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, that's the acronym, publicly tweeted that a group of private election security experts concluded that claims of computer-based election fraud, quote, either have been unsubstantiated or are technically incoherent. 2 days later, on November 19th, co-conspirator 1, 3, and private person 10 and others held a press conference at the RNC headquarters on behalf of the defendant, Donald Trump, and his campaign. During it, co-conspirator 3 made false and factually impossible claims regarding C3. Now, I guess C3 must stand for something else. And the integrity of the country's election infrastructure. That night, Fox News television personality P51 stated on air that because of co-conspirator 3 incendiary comments about voting machines, he had invited her on his television program. He further stated, quote, "But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page. When we kept pressing, she got angry and told us to stop contacting her. When we checked with others around the Trump campaign, people in positions of authority, they told us co-conspirator 3 has never given them any evidence either. She never demonstrated that a single actual vote was moved illegitimately by software from one candidate to another. Not one," unquote. The defendant, Donald Trump, saw his private attorney's RNC press conference and P51 discussion of co-conspirator 3, and he acknowledged to P4 that co-conspirator 3 had appeared. So co-conspirator 3 is Sidney Powell. So Sidney Powell wasn't co-conspirator 2. So obviously, he said she was unhinged in the press conference on November 20th. Well, let's just say we don't know who these people are, but I assume we gonna find out which ones is which. He got so many nuts surrounding him. On November 20th, the day after the press conference, the defendant, Donald Trump, made a similar comment to P7 and P45, two White House staffers who also volunteered for his campaign. In casual conversation, after another meeting had ended, the defendant told P7 and P45 that P51 had eviscerated or destroyed co-conspirator 3. The defendant, Donald Trump, then had a call with co-conspirator 3 on speakerphone while P7 and P45 listened in, and mentioned the P51 segment to co-conspirator 3. While co-conspirator 3 responded, the defendant placed the call on mute, and to P7 and P45 mocked and laughed at co-conspirator 3 and called her claims crazy. Now, can you imagine, as thick as Donald Trump is, can you imagine he seeing somebody that he called crazy? Boy, this is rich. Let me see. Is that crazy? And made a reference to the science fiction. Y'all excuse me, please. I'm sorry. Oh, man. If this was regular TV, I'd say cut to commercial. Donald Trump called her crazy and made a reference to the science fiction series Star Trek when describing her allegation. In the same time period, when P9, person 9, told the defendant that co-conspirator 3 claims were unreliable and should not be included in lawsuits. Donald Trump agreed that he had not seen anything to substantiate co-conspirator 3's allegations. On November 22nd, notwithstanding Donald Trump's tweet, the defendant's tweet from 8 days prior announcing co-conspirator 3 involvement, Giuliani issued a statement on behalf of the campaign distancing the defendant from co-conspirator 3. And co-conspirator 3 is practicing law on her own. She is not a member of the Trump legal team. They deserve not throwing her under the bus. She is also not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity. Nonetheless, the defendant continued to support and publicize co-conspirator 3, knowing her knowingly false claims. For example, within days of Giuliani's statement, the defendant Donald Trump promoted a lawsuit that co-conspirator 3 was about to file, tweeting on November 24, quote, "Breaking news. Sidney Powell says her lawsuit in Georgia could be filed as soon as tomorrow, and says there's no way there was anything but widespread election fraud. MAGA, America First, Dobbs, co-conspirator 3, co-conspirator 3, pardon me, this program has said so long that it's ready to cancel itself. Co-conspirator 3 filed a lawsuit the next day against the governor of Georgia, falsely alleging, quote, massive election fraud, unquote, accomplished through co-conspirator, accomplished through C3, election software and hardware. So I guess that is the software and hardware. I don't know if that's Dominion or not, but they got sued for lying on Dominion, so that might be the problem there. The defendant again promoted the lawsuit in a tweet. The lawsuit was dismissed within 2 weeks on December 7th. On November 29th, person 50, who was no longer the CISA director, appeared on the television program 60 Minutes. P50 stated that he was confident that the election had been secure and, quote, that there was no manipulation of the vote on the machine count side, and there was no manipulation of the vote on the machine count side, unquote. In response, the defendant, Donald Trump, tweeted publicly about person 50 appearance. Quote, 60 Minutes never asked us for a comment about their ridiculous one-sided story on election security, which is an international joke. Our 2020 election, from poorly rated I guess that's C3, Dominion, to a country flooded with unaccounted for mail-in ballots was probably our least secure effort. A few days later, Person 10 appeared on a radio program as the defendant's agent and said that because of the P50 comments to promote confidence in the security of the election infrastructure, P50, quote, should be drawn and quartered, taken out at dawn and shot, unquote. Thereafter, P50 was subjected to death threats. In a press conference on December 1st that the defendant acknowledged watching, P25, a Georgia election official, decried P10 and the defendant's public statements spreading dishonest information and said that if they did not stop, quote, someone is going to get killed. On December 1st, Attorney General P52 stated publicly that the Justice Department had not seen evidence of fraud sufficient to change the election results. With respect to voting machines, he said, quote, there's been one assertion that would be systemic fraud, and that would be the claim that machines were programmed essentially to skew the election results. And the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and DOJ have looked into that, and so far we haven't seen anything to substantiate that. Co-conspirator 1, Giuliani, and P12 immediately issued a formal campaign statement attacking P50, Person 52, and the Justice Department, writing, quote, with all due respect to the Attorney General, there hasn't been any semblance of a Department of Justice investigation. His opinion appears to be without any knowledge or investigation of the substantial irregularities and evidence of systemic fraud, unquote. In mid-December, the defendant, Donald Trump, spoke with RNC chairwoman, P39, and asked her to publicize and promote a private report that had been released on December 13th that purported to identify flaws in the use of Dominion machines. Now, I'm pretty sure it's Dominion. That C3 represents Dominion, and I guess the C stands for company. Company 3. Machines in Atrium County, Michigan. P39 refused, telling the defendant that she already had discussed the report with P38, Michigan's Speaker of the House, who had told her that the report was inaccurate. P39 conveyed to Donald Trump P38 exact assessment. The report was effing nuts. quote, that's the quote. The report was effing nuts. On January 2nd, during the defendant's call with Georgia's Secretary of State, P33 said of false claims regarding voting machines, quote, I don't believe that you're really questioning the voting the Dominion machines, because we did a hand retally, a 100% retally of all the ballots and compared them to what the machine said and came up with virtually the same result. Then we did the recount, and we got virtually the same result. So I guess we can probably take that off the table, unquote. In response, Donald Trump falsely claimed that, quote, in other states, we think we found tremendous corruption with Dominion machines, but we'll have to see, unquote. At the ellipse on January 6th, the defendants and co-conspirators who spoke at the rally continued to make unsubstantiated and false claims about Dominion machines. Giuliani claimed that the United States Senate runoff election in Georgia the day before, quote, the votes were deliberately changed by the same algorithm that was used in cheating President Trump and Vice President Pence. And co-conspirator 2 continued the false attack. We, quote, we now know because we caught it live last time in real time how the machines contributed to that fraud. They put those ballots in a secret folder in the machines, sitting there waiting until they know how many they need. And then the machine, after the close of polls, we now know who's voted, and we know who hasn't. And I can now, in that machine, match those unvoted ballots with an unvoted voter and put them together in the machine. So what they're saying, they went all around to every place where voting was being done, and they had people in every one of them places doing what he just described. Do you know how insane that sounds? Anyway, we saw it happen in real time last night, and it happened on November. This Giuliani talking now, and on November 3rd as well. In his own speech, the defendant, Donald Trump, again raised the false specter of the false boogeyman. Of the, quote, the highly troubling matter of Dominion machines, and lied about machines, flipping votes, saying the machine was flipping votes from Trump to Biden, and an astronomical and astounding error rate in the machines. Ballot scanning. D. We're moving to another section now. The defendant organized and caused his electors to submit fraudulent certificates, creating the false appearance that states submitted competing electoral slates. By late November 2020, every effort, both legitimate and illegitimate, that the defendant had made to challenge the results of the election had been unsuccessful. The defendant, his campaign, and their allies had lost or withdrawn one election lawsuit after another in the 7 targeted states, and the defendant and co-conspirators' efforts to overturn the legitimate vote count through a pressure campaign on state officials and through false claims targeted states that the defendants had lost: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, to organize the people who would have served as the defendant's electors had he won the popular vote, and cause them to sign and send to Pence as president of the Senate certifications in which they falsely represented themselves as legitimate electors who had cast electoral votes for the defendant, Donald Trump. Ultimately, the defendant and his co-conspirators would use these fraudulent electoral votes, mere pieces of paper, they had no backing, mere pieces of paper without the lawful imprimatur of a state executive, to falsely claim that in his ministerial role presiding over the January 6th certification, Pence had the authority to choose the fraudulent slates over the legitimate ones, or to send the purportedly dueling, quote-unquote, dueling states to the state legislatures for consideration anew. The fraudulent elector plans, ARC, and obstructive, the fraudulent elector plans, ARC, and obstructive purpose is reflected in a series of memoranda drafted in late November and early December by co-conspirator 5, an attorney who volunteered to assist the defendant's campaign in lawsuits challenging the election in Wisconsin, beginning with a memorandum drafted on November 18th. Co-conspirator 5 advocated that the defendant's elector nominees in Wisconsin meet and cast votes on the date required by the ECA, Electoral Count Association or whatever, in 2020, December 14th. In the event that an ongoing recount in the state reversed the defendant's loss there, but this course of action, which co-conspirator 5 in Wisconsin memorandum, I tell you what, we're going to take this up tomorrow. That's another section I done read. We left off on page 48. And we're gonna cut it right there. And we'll start at the last paragraph of page 48 tomorrow. So we done got all the way up to 69. So we making good progress. Yeah. So we done read about 69 pages now. So just be ready, and I want you to hear this before I let you go, because man, these things
I'm Tom Yamas, live in Sarasota, Florida tonight in the path of Hurricane Milton. This monster and historic storm is set to make landfall in just hours. Our team is spread across the state of Florida, covering every angle, including the approaching hurricane, and now the threat of tornadoes.
This is a special edition of Top Story, Hurricane Milton, live from the storm zone. Here's Tom Yamas.
Hey, good evening. We are live tonight from Sarasota in a very safe zone as Hurricane Milton rapidly approaches. Already
already bearing down on Florida's west coast. At this hour, we are nearing a potentially historic landfall. This extremely dangerous and catastrophic storm could be one of the worst hurricanes ever on record for this area. Right now, conditions are rapidly deteriorating as the outer bands continue pushing on shore. And here in Sarasota, the city is bracing for potential disaster and likely some of the worst storm surge it's ever seen. You may be able to hear the wind blowing now. We are approaching hurricane-force wind gusts. This is a life-threatening situation unfolding. The National Weather Service is saying now the time to stay in place, you have to stay in place if you didn't get out. I want to take a live look right now at St. Pete where torrential rain.
I'm going to give it to you where it's going on right now, 58 minutes ago. And let's see what they're talking about now.
Sarasota, down to Fort Myers, and all the way to the east coast of Florida. Still hurricane warnings in place, including Orlando. So Orlando will still see hurricane conditions overnight.
This is 32 minutes ago. Let's see.
Remember that the Tampa area hasn't seen a
Now is the time to hunker down, warning people to stay indoors until the storm passes. The emergency personnel can once again reach residents. CBS News Miami correspondent Christian Benavides joins us now from Tampa, Florida. Christian, you've been tracking the storm all night. It looks like it's really coming down behind you there this hour.
Chanel, yeah, we've seen conditions truly deteriorate, particularly within the past hour as Milton has already made landfall just south of us. At this point, what we're seeing is those whipping winds. We're seeing heavy rain, and as I mentioned, continue the conditions certainly deteriorating much, much more than we saw earlier. In fact, even just walking over to our vehicles to open the door, having a hard time doing something like that. Certainly, you got to remember that the Tampa area hasn't seen a major hurricane make this sort of impact in over a century. So we'll have to see how the damage that this storm does, how that compares to some of the storms that we've seen happen here within particularly along the Gulf Coast in the past couple of years. What we've seen is just communities absolutely decimated. As I had mentioned to you earlier tonight, we've spoken to residents who live in those barrier island communities. They say that they haven't seen storms like this. They've lived there for decades, and it's certainly something that is shocking to them. We spoke to one woman who lives in St. Pete Beach. She said that the storm surge during Helene, which happened not 2 weeks ago, came up to her neck. She had decided to ride out the storm. Sorry, we're hearing some sort of commotion happening here. It's just, as I mentioned, as these whipping winds get going, you sort of see debris that goes out on the street, and we just want to make sure that everything is okay around us, and it looks like it is. As I mentioned, this woman in St. Pete Beach told me that she had ridden out Helene. The storm surge at that point was at 5 feet, because remember that Helene stayed about 100 miles offshore from where we're located, and it still decimated that community. Water up to her neck. She called police. She started calling for help. Officials told her that they couldn't go out and help her because it was just too dangerous for them to go out there, and she was in a mandatory evacuation zone, and they had already warned so many people that they had to get out. And this time, she said that Milton, she was not going to ride out there. At this point, officials truly concerned about what a major hurricane can do to this area.
Just want to mention, Christian, because I know the situation there is so fluid. The images obviously behind you are so dramatic. If you need to leave us at any point, please let us know. But in the meantime, I do want to ask you about some of the issues that we heard people were having getting gasoline ahead of the storm. Did that impact, the ability to leave for people that did want to do that?
There are so many. It's not just the gas stations. I mean, you've got a huge housing crunch, because you got to remember that after Helene decimated so many of those communities out on the barrier islands, those folks that live out there came inland, and they're living in hotels across Central Florida. And now you've got more evacuations taking place, and you've got people who have no finding housing, finding where they're going to ride out the storm. At this point, obviously, everyone is where they need to be in order to be able to shelter as this storm takes place.
And Christian, we're just starting to get some numbers on the immediate impact of this weather. More than 100,000 people have lost power in Hillsborough County, and that's where you are. Across the state, we know nearly 800,000 people are now in the dark. Why don't you just check in there to see if you're okay to continue reporting, but do let us know again, Christian, if you need to take shelter.
Fine. As I mentioned, at this point, we will. At this point, we're inside a garage, but as we look out from here, we are seeing that debris is starting to fly down a road. This is a main artery here that's here in the Tampa Bay area. So when we hear that there's major debris going by, we just sort of take a look behind us. But we're high up, and over here we're safe because we're surrounded. We're inside the hotel. We're in a hotel garage, so certainly safe in here. I think you just mentioned the power outages in Hillsborough County. We know that this is an area where they're anticipating that they would have some power outages because of where this storm is going through. The north side of the storm is where you see those heavy winds, and you see those whipping winds, and that's normally what's knocking out the power. Where we're at here in downtown Tampa, we're still seeing that the lights are on. We saw some flickering happening earlier, but we fully expect that there will be more outages as the storm moves through. This is certainly a time that people are making sure that they've got what they need following the storm, because you got to remember, once power is out, it could potentially be out for some time.
Well, the main thing is you see what's going on. So now y'all suit yourself. But I told you to get off that Trump train. And I'm also telling you that the message that the United States needs to send to the world right now, you can send it on November the 5th or November 3rd, whenever this election is going to take place. Trump needs to lose every state. I mean, sooner or later, I don't care what kind of drug people use on you to put you to sleep, your body is going to build up a resistance to it, because you wasn't put here to sleep forever. A sleeper, sooner or later, has to wake up. It's time for you to wake up and send a message to the world that this nightmare of Donald Trump is over. All this Trumpism and all this foolishness, people trying to kill each other, everybody think they need a gun to protect themselves from their next door neighbor. Then you wind up sending the wrong message to your children. The next thing you know, you got teenagers going into school shooting down babies. Okay. Time for this foolishness to stop. All right. Any questions before I let y'all go? Brother, did anybody have any questions?
No, sir. Nobody said anything.
All right. Okay. Then may Allah bless us, keep us safe, and in our right minds. And let's do what we know is right. So, and I'll tell this person that from time to time you always texting me with something that you think that you and I are going to get in a chat on. I don't do private teaching. I told you that. Now, if you got something you want to talk to me about, you come on in the class and I'll be glad to talk with you. Other than that, you can keep your opinions to yourself. Don't even bother to text me. So, all right. And I'll talk to y'all if it pleases Allah. I'll be talking with you tomorrow evening.
Until then, may Allah bless us all and keep us safe and in our right minds and in good health. And grant to each of us a peaceful and pleasant night's rest and sleep, and a happy, peaceful, and pleasant morning's rise. May Allah's Salam Alaikum.
Conference recording stopped.